Okay, the Keith Emerson's Variations box set comes out on the 13th of October. I will put the purchasing links, several purchasing links, in fact, just beneath this video. I certainly encourage you to check this out. So my first question for you, Dave, is I saw in a previous interview that you said progressive music wasn't really your thing growing up. How much did you know about Keith Emerson's music prior to actually working with him?
It was my uncle's fault, basically. My uncle Pete and my uncle Tony were huge ELP fans, and they introduced me at a very young age. I still remember I was probably about 10 or 11, and they played me Lucky Man, and they were like, "Oh, just wait till you get to the solo," and it just blew my tiny little mind at the time. Amazing, and because I come from a long line of piano players, my uncles played, my grandfather played. I guess that was kind of in the blood as well, and I could tell that Keith was just an exceptional musician. Um, Particularly his piano playing. I just adore his piano playing. It's incredible.
So how did it come about? I mean, how did you get to work with him? I mean, who brought you two together?
This I would have to blame on. I was playing in a band called Quango.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember those way back in the early noughties. In fact, we were playing a show. I think written down. I've got the dates. Yes, February the 4th, 2000. I was playing with Quango at the Astoria. Well, the Astoria 2 actually, which was the downstairs budget version of the upstairs Astoria. And obviously in the band there was John Wetton from Asia, UK, King Crimson, etc.
Uriah Heep.
Cole Palmer was on drums as well.
Mhm.
Friend of mine, John Young, was playing keyboards.
John
And
Young from Life Signs.
exactly, that
Ah,
very chap,
yeah.
yes. And so we were playing a mixture of Asia tunes, some of John's solo material, but also a bunch of ELP stuff as well. As you know, there's not a lot of guitar playing involved in the ELP stuff, so I was basically doubling a lot of the keyboard lines or harmonizing whatever. And anyway, so we're playing this show, and what none of us knew was that Keith was in the audience.
Wow.
He just come along to surprise his old mate Carl. So we finished the set, and I'm walking down the steps off the stage, and I can just see this guy at the bottom of the. It's quite dark, but I can see this guy at the bottom of the stairs, and he's got his arms outstretched, and I'm thinking, oh my god, that's Keith Emerson. And he came up and he just gave me this huge hug, and he said, "Oh my god, that was amazing. I've never heard anyone play my keyboard lines on guitar before. Can I get up and jam?" I'm like, um, okay. So sure enough, Keith got up for the encore, and we played fanfare for ages. And I don't remember very much about it other than just stood on stage with this stupid grin on my face. Um, my two uncles that had introduced me to ELP in the first place, they were actually in the audience that night as well. So it was just, yeah, it's just one of those perfect moments, really.
Yeah. I mean, you played at BB King's and things like that with him, I believe, as well.
Yes.
Um, I mean, do you have any, apart from the wonderful story you've just told, I mean, do you have any other sort of anecdotes about, Keith, working with Keith?
Um, I,
Putting you on the spot.
I have far too many,
I
actually.
think nothing that's going to get you sued, of course.
I don't know where to begin. Um, I remember because I was a huge fan, so I would get all the magazines with Keith on when they came out, and I remember this particularly old issue of I think it was International Musician and Recording.
Mhm.
So we're going back into the sort of 70s, 80s, and it's a picture of Keith on the cover, and he's just surrounded by paraphernalia. There's the Moog Moog module in the background, and there's all these wires and leads coming out, and I just think, wow, this guy's a genius. How the hell does he know how all this stuff works? And so fast forward about 30 years, and we're on tour supporting the Scorpions in America,
Oh wow.
and we're kind of just hanging out backstage, and I can see Keith's over by the table looking puzzled. So I kind of go over and I said, "Is everything all right?" And he said, "Yeah. Can you tell me how to put this kettle on?" And all my dreams of being this technical genius were just shattered in that instant. But he was just such a lovely guy to be around. He really was. Just I really miss him. I really
Yeah.
do.
Absolutely master of the Moog, not so great with kettles then. That's
No.
I've got to ask you, I mean, what was it like stepping into Davey List's shoes? Because you played with the Nice, didn't you?
I did, yes. I wasn't very, to be honest, I was more familiar with the ELP stuff than the Nice. And I just remember, am I allowed to tell this story about Davey List? I'm not sure. I guess that's where you have an edit button, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, anything you say, you can trust me.
Can and will be used against you.
But anything you say, if you can always send me an email very quickly, and I can cut bits out if you want. But I'll.
Well, I don't know. It just amused me because it was the reason that they ended up as a three-piece, basically. Obviously they had a guitarist to begin with,
Mhm.
and so Keith told me this story one night where they decided to phone up Davey, find out how he's doing, and so they said, "Oh, what are you up to tonight?" And Davey's like, "Oh, not much, just watching TV." What are you guys up to? And Keith said, "Well, we're at the Marquee at the moment." And Davey's like, "Oh wow, who's playing?" And he said, "We are, you muppet. Get your ass down here right now." He just completely forgot that he had a gig.
Oh God.
Yes. So I think they just gave up on him in the end. But I don't know. He's probably, I've never met him. He's probably a lovely chap. But um,
Well, he stood in for Sid Barrett once, didn't he? As well with Pink Floyd.
yes, yes, yes.
That would be an interesting story in itself.
I should ask Roger about that.
Yeah, actually, I mean,
What?
you've segued nicely in this interview to now talking about the main man himself. I mean, 'cause a huge Pink Floyd fan, I've got to ask you,
Oh
how
well.
scary, how scary is Roger Waters?
Um, It depends. He's a perfectionist, which I love,
Hmm.
and he knows exactly what he wants. So if you can do what he wants, then he's the loveliest chap ever, and he's got a fantastic sense of humor. If you can't do what he wants, then he's probably quite scary.
Uh,
Fortunately, I've always been able to, cover whatever he's got in his head. Because sometimes he just says, "Look, I don't care about the record. Can we do something different here?" So I was like, "Okay, well, this kind of different or that kind of different." So we try a bunch of different stuff until he's happy. But no, he's very much. I mean, he's the boss, but he's open to suggestions, and he's happily tell you when you're an idiot. So that's fine too. I find it easy to work with him because there's no gray areas. It's not like, oh, I'm not sure what he thinks. He will tell you whether he loves it or whether he hates it. There's two different.
yeah,
It's black or white, really. There's no gray areas at all. So and I've always got on with him great. I mean, I've been with him now for what's coming up to 18 years, I think. So I must be doing something right.
yeah. So I mean, I saw the Us and Them tour, which was a few years ago now. That was impressive to say the least. Were you on that tour, the Us and Them
Yes,
tour?
I was. Yes.
And the the whole Battersea power station thing that was lowered down for dogs, and that was just it was just mind blowing. It's one of the uh, memories that I definitely have of that gig. Remarkable, remarkable.
Right.
As a guitarist, I mean, how do you rate Dave Gilmour as a guitarist, and what do you find? What is his trickiest guitar part to play?
Mm, okay. Well, eh, I hate rating guitarists because I hate guitarists in general. And I tend to prefer real musicians.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um, so, I mean, David's great. He's come up with some wonderful, memorable guitar parts. I mean, the solo in Another Brick in the Wall is amazing. It
Mhm.
really is. And probably some of the trickiest stuff is some of those. It's a very specific bend where I don't know how technical you want to get. I mean, you're bending up a tone, and then you're bending up two tones, and then you're bending up a, it's that which is
Mhm.
all essentially on one note.
Mhm.
So that kind of control is quite difficult. So that's the kind of tricky aspect of his solos. I mean, most of them are kind of straightforward, but they're just very, very memorable.
Yeah, it's just the sound he manages to get though, really as well.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. The sound is. I mean, as you probably know, the sound is in the hands, though. I mean, everyone thinks that he's obviously associated with the Black Strat and whatever, but the solo on Another Brick in the Wall was actually done on a Les Paul.
okay.
Les Paul with P90s, in fact, a gold top, which was plugged instead of going into amps, it was plugged straight into the mixing console.
Hmm. Hmm.
You don't listen to that and go, "Wow, who's playing a Les Paul on this record?" You just think, "Wow, that's just a great Dave Gilmour solo."
Yeah.
So, and it really is one of my favorites.
So
Um,
you say it's in the hands. You can't just pop out and buy Dave Gilmour pedal, and that's it. You've got
no,
your sound.
no, no. I wish you could. I would. Well, I would go out and get a Jeff Beck pedal tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there's been some debate in the media. Roger Waters says the Comfortably Numb solo was comprised of two or three takes. Bob Ezrin's been saying that it was actually one take. So, and, it's interesting. I think the romance of it, you like to think it was one take, but reality
Yeah,
it probably was two or three takes, really.
yeah. It was a bunch of takes that David did, and then David went home, and Roger just sat there and kind of pieced something together. He does like to control stuff.
What was your relationship with Pink Floyd's music growing up? Were you that familiar with
Um,
their stuff?
I not at all, not in the slightest. I was into heavier, faster, louder, more technical, whatever. Exactly. I went to see Motorhead a couple of times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. A couple of times in the 80s, I
yeah.
went. I was at the 10th anniversary gig in '85, and then I saw them a year later on the Orgasmatron tour, which were they're just brilliant. They really were.
I think I saw the last time I saw them was the Bomber tour, which was what was that, late 70s
Well,
maybe.
that was about '79, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
tour.
I think it was.
Yeah. So you saw them certainly before I did.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I was listening to things like that, things
yeah.
like Black Sabbath, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, huge Led Zeppelin fan, huge Queen fan.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, certain progressive stuff, but also certain things that were probably classified as jazz rock at the time. Things like UK, um, Colosseum 2 with Gary Moore. Yeah, just kind of, I don't know, things that had more notes in them, I suppose. So I
Right.
didn't really listen to. I kind of missed Floyd out completely. In fact, the first time I heard The Wall was about 3 months before the tour. I literally never heard the album before, and I thought I should check this out just to make sure to see what I'm letting myself in for. And then I heard there was some classical, and I thought, oh, I'm going to need a classical guitar to play on stage, and there was some that high tuning thing, and there was just all kinds of stuff. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was completely unfamiliar with it. In fact, when my manager first mentioned about an audition for Roger Waters, I'm like, I don't know who that is. Sorry, I was obviously knew Pink Floyd, but I didn't, apart from Another Brick in the Wall. That was probably all I'd really heard. That was played on the radio a lot when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard Dark Side when I was a kid at my friend's house, but I didn't sort of rush out and grab it. There was other things in his collection that I was borrowing,
Right.
Status Quo and Pat Travers, and
So, how did that audition go down then? If you weren't that familiar with the music?
well, I'm quite a quick learner, thankfully. I used to write for a guitar magazine called Guitar Techniques. So every month they just send me this track to learn, and I'd have to transcribe it note for note in music and in tab, and record it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do my own version of it. So they'd always send me the most technically demanding stuff. It'd be Steve Vai's For the Love of God, or Yngwie Malmsteen's Black Star, or Eruption by Van Halen, all that kind of stuff. They would send to me to learn and record.
Yeah.
So actually learning stuff wasn't really a problem. For the audition, they just wanted a couple of specific bits, so I just kind of sat down, and I think they'd asked for them. Yeah, I think one of the things I played was Money,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd already written that out for the magazine like 2 or 3 years previous.
Yeah.
Took along my little transcription. I just kind of read it as I was auditioning. It was kind of, I mean, it was kind of scary, to be honest.
Right.
I thought I was prepared, but when I got there, I realized I really wasn't prepared in the slightest. Because they said they wanted someone to sing and play like Dave Gilmour.
Mm-hmm.
But because I wasn't really a fan, I didn't know what bits David sang or what bits Roger sang. So Roger says, "Okay, let's go through Money." And I'm like, "Okay, do you want?" feeling quite proud. I said, "Do you want me to do the because there's 3 rhythm guitar parts. There's a kind of a reggae one, deck, or there's the one that follows the bass, or there's the one with the wobbly vibrato effect. And I kind of knew all those parts. I thought, oh, yeah, I'm good here. Which one do you want me to do?" And he says, "Oh, I don't care about that. Are you all right with the lyrics?" And I'm thinking, he wants me to sing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't. I mean, it's not too taxing, but it's something that you wouldn't mind going through a few times on your own before the guy that actually wrote it is kind of stood there looking at you as you try and get through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the. I don't know. I felt like I'd completely messed up the audition. It was just a nightmare from beginning to end. My acoustic guitar didn't work. I think my amp blew up at one point as well. I borrowed this amp and it just wasn't very well. And I thought, they hate me,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely hate me. There was another guy waiting to come in for the audition, Andy Latimer from Camel.
Right. Okay.
And I thought, they all greeted him like an old friend. I thought, he's got the job. Dave, you just completely messed it up. So I just went home and started drinking. No, I probably didn't, but I just thought that you've just blown the biggest opportunity of your life.
Yeah.
And then he called me up the next day. It's like, yeah, Roger, I'd like to offer you the gig. Here's when rehearsal starts, and off you go.
Wow.
So then you get the set list, and then I just learned it all from that. I put it all on probably on a little drive that I could put in my car.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the easiest way to learn it is actually just to play it. So I would just drive to the shops, whatever, and just listen to the tunes. Because I've got pretty good ears, I can work things out really quickly. So I just need to. I need the song, I need the arrangement. yeah, so that's the way I learned it, and that's the same way as I learned the wall as well.
Right. Right. Oh, Andy Latimer auditioning for Roger Waters. I didn't realize. I'm a big Camel fan.
Ah, okay.
Didn't realize that he'd auditioned for to play on the play with Roger Waters.
Yeah, yeah. He was there in 2006. It was.
Oh wow! Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's when I got the gig for the Dark Side tour.
Okay, okay,
In fact, I saw Andy about two years ago playing at Aylesbury.
okay. Yeah, I saw
Um,
Camel at the Rambling Man Fair. I think it was a few years ago now.
okay,
That's in Maidstone, Kent.
right.
But he's. I think they've cancelled the last tour. I don't think he's well at the moment or something like that. But I'd like to see them again.
Yeah, but Andy was lovely. He was really. In fact, when I saw him, he remembered me from the audition. Weirdly, and he said, "Oh yeah, well done. I've been following your career. You know doing a great job." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, thank you." It's mind blowing, really.
Mm. He didn't spill the beans as to what he'd done wrong in the audition. Then.
Well, I think he didn't really. I mean, I think Roger likes, for the most parts, he likes he thinks of the albums as it's almost like a classical composition.
Mhm.
These are the notes. This is the solo. So you play the solo from beginning to end, as a classical musician would. Um, and I don't think he'd learned the songs particularly well, and I think he was singing the tunes in his own style, which Roger didn't want as well. So I think Roger just stopped him sort of after a few minutes and said, "No, this isn't going to work." Um, it's kind of difficult to um, adapt your playing or singing or style into to try and fit into somebody else's shoes. I mean, as I said, I wasn't a Floyd fan, so it was kind of a bit of a shock for me to kind of try and be straitjacketed into this
Yeah.
into this. Well, that sounds terrible, but there's certain things you can play, there's certain things you can't play. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Roger Waters is playing his Redux version of Dark Side of the Moon at the London Palladium, I think, very, very soon.
yes,
Um, I tell you an album I'd love to see Roger Waters do in its entirety, and that is his solo album, Amused to Death. I mean, what a remarkably good album that is. I'd love to see
right,
that perform, but of course,
I
people
think
go to see Roger Waters, they want to hear that Floyd stuff, don't they, really, I suppose?
sure, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we played a bunch of the tracks. We played more of the solo stuff probably on the Dark Side tour back in 2006.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's such a great album.
yeah.
I've got to ask you. I mean, why re-release Scarlet as a director's cut?
I was just, I'm a perfectionist. I can't help it. It drives me nuts. So I felt like I was rushing the mix, and it came out, and I'm thinking, this is just, no, this is awful. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
So what I probably should have done is just go in and record another album, but I don't know. It was just something that was niggling me. I thought I can just make this better. So yeah, that's what I did.
Right, right.
And
Now, do you feel it's better?
it is, although I never listen to my old stuff. I can't do that. I'm always trying to think of new things. I mean, at the moment, I'm working on a new album, which is practically finished except for the vocals, which I still need to do.
And that'll be
Um,
out when?
that will be out early next year.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm ridiculously pleased with it. It's got a different band than I've ever used before. Marco Miniman is on drums. Nick Beggs is on bass. Adam Holtzman is on keyboards.
yeah,
Um, a good friend of mine, Heather Finley, is singing a bunch of backing vocals. I've got this cellist from Mexico playing on it, and everyone's just done such an amazing job. And so I'm kind of feeling the pressure to improve my vocals to make, because
right,
obviously that's the first thing that people listen to when they get an album. So, but I'll do that when we get back from the tour.
sure. I've got one last question for you.
Yes,
Jimmy Page or Richie Blackmore?
Jimmy Page.
Okay.
That's a nice easy one. Um, I love Jimmy's uh, compositions, his creativity. I mean, it sounds. I mean, he's obviously there's loads of kind of mistakes in his playing, and which he just leaves. You can tell that there's the most incredible musician in his head, and he's trying to do that, and he doesn't quite get there. But the stuff that he writes is just wonderful.
Hmm.
And I was very very fortunate. Just quickly, I was just very fortunate to. I was playing a solo acoustic show earlier this century,
Hmm.
and it was something I was doing just to try and get a bit more confidence, because it's kind of scary, it's out in front of an audience on your own, acoustic guitar mic. So I was doing a bunch of these, and anyway, I finished one at this pub, and the owner of the pub came up to me afterwards. And he says, "Oh, Jimmy Page wants a word." I'm like, "Yeah, of course he does. No, tell him I'm a bit busy." And he said, "No, seriously, Jimmy Page was in the audience, and he wants to speak to you." I'm like, "Okay, wow." And he came up to me, and he was just the nicest guy.
Yeah.
He's so nice. And to meet one of your heroes on that sort of level as well is amazing. I mean, not on the same level, obviously, but I obviously know he's a guitar player. He's seen me play. He knows I'm a guitar player, so
Yeah.
we have something in common to talk about. And we were talking about one of the songs I played actually was the Rain song.
Okay.
He said, yeah, well, that was one of his favorite compositions, and he used to play that to his wife when she was pregnant. And we talked about Jeff Buckley quite a lot as well, because I'm a huge
Okay.
Jeff Buckley fan. Yeah, and it was just, I mean, like, there was a whole bunch of people around us, and he had some security that were keeping everyone away. It was just me and him just talking about guitars. I thought this is just the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah. Did you ever like Tim Buckley stuff?
Not that familiar. I,
Right.
I probably need to go back and listen to it. I
Yeah.
might have like maybe two or three songs, but there's so much of Jeff's out there. I became slightly obsessed and hunted down all these bootlegs and random stuff. So
Excellent. Excellent. You don't think there's a future collaboration there with yourself and Jimmy Page?
who knows? Who knows? He's a lovely chap. I'd love to sit down and work with him, because I'm sure he's still, that level of creativity.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy. I mean, there isn't a typical Led Zeppelin tune, really.
No.
There's reggae tunes, and there's kind of um, some weird pop stuff that they did on In Through the Outdoor.
Hmm.
Um, there's the standard acoustic thing. I mean, there's just such a huge breadth of music and influences there. I'd love to. He's probably not interested anymore.
No.
You know, he's got his young lady, so
He's probably quite happy.
exactly.
Anyway, that's my last question for you, and I'll
That
just
was
put
an
this box.
interesting one, actually, because I did meet Richie Blackmore as well many years ago.
Ah, now that's an
Who
interesting story.
would-
Many an interesting story is prefaced with, "I met Richie Blackmore once." Go on, then I've got to hear this.
it was just one of those. Um, God, I'm guessing it was the 80s.
Hmm.
There was a drummer friend of mine that was playing in the Jackie Linton band,
Okay.
and they had this gig somewhere in Putney or wherever. And he called me up one night. He said, "Oh, you might want to come along tonight. Jimmy Page, sorry, Richie Blackmore's getting up and playing."
Hmm.
So I'm kind of thinking he's probably not going to get up in a little pub
Hmm.
and play. So I went down and we watched the first set, and it was just a normal band. And then guitarist comes off, and ladies and gentlemen, we've got a surprise guest, Richie Blackmore. And he comes on and he plugs into the exact same guy's amps,
Yeah.
wherever. And it was Richie Blackmore. It just sounded totally different.
Yeah.
Played amazing, actually. Really played amazing. And so we got to hang out with him afterwards. he seemed to like me. We were talking about strange, esoteric, existential nonsense, really. And he just looked at me. He said, "Yeah, I can tell you know what I mean." I'm like, "Yeah, this is Richie Blackmore. This is very strange."
Uh-huh.
And but it was, yeah. I mean, it was a great experience. Thankfully, I
Yeah.
know sometimes meeting your heroes is not recommended, but I've met most of mine now, and they all seem to be really
Mhm.
lovely chaps.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
You've never met David Gilmour?
I have.
Was he a lovely chap as well?
He was. He was actually. I met him when we first. I've met him a couple of times, but the first time was when we started rehearsing for the Dark Side.
Mhm.
Because he was actually rehearsing in the same um, facility. It was a place called Bray Studios,
Mhm.
and it's where I don't know if you remember all those Hammer House of Horror movies.
I certainly do, yes.
Well, that's where they used to film them.
Mhm.
You could see the big house, and you sort of recognize it from a lot of those old films. But there was a couple of big kind of aircraft hangar type buildings outside, and we were rehearsing in one, and David's band was rehearsing in another one. So I got to meet David and Richard. And yeah, I think I was sat there at lunch one afternoon, and David came over and just introduced himself.
Yeah,
I'm David, and I said, "Oh, hi, I'm your stunt double."
yeah.
No, he was lovely though. He was.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. Well, anyway, I will plug this box set now. Actually, this Keith Emerson
Yes, please.
Variations
Sorry.
box set. It is out on 13th October. Purchasing links just below this video. Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Good luck with your new album that comes out. It's going to come out soon, I hope. And with the rest of the tour with Roger, I hope he continues to be unscary, shall we say?
Thank you very much.
Unscary, is that a word? I don't think it is it? But you know what I
Um, I know exactly what you mean.
mean.
All
Okay,
right, brilliant. Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
my pleasure. All the very best. Bye bye.
Cheers.